I'd like to welcome you to the House, Minister, and to welcome this bill, this long overdue bill, on behalf of the Labour senators, and to welcome into the gallery Paula Fagan and her colleagues from LGBT Ireland, and to commend you on the work you've done in ensuring this bill remains a political priority. And Minister, it is very welcome to see it here. It is most unfortunate and regrettable, to say the least, that so many couples have been waiting for 4 years since the resounding passage of the marriage equality referendum to see this legacy or unfinished business passed into law, because I think we had all anticipated that the Children and Family Relationships Act would come into effect fully on the passage of the marriage equality referendum, and we wouldn't see this long overdue delay. And I know this is a technical bill. I mean, looking through it, and I know my colleague Deputy Willie Penrose said something similar in the Dáil, it's quite difficult to follow the provisions of it because it is technical, but we know that its key purpose is to facilitate or bring about commencement of the relevant sections in Part 9 of the Children and Family Relationships Act 2015, which will make possible at last the registration and re-registration of donor-assisted births to record the particulars of both parents where two women are together in a same-sex relationship. And we know, as others have said, just how many families have been so deeply affected by this and have become so frustrated at the delay in bringing this in. And certainly I know of so many families in that position. So it's really welcome that this is finally coming in, albeit that it is so overdue. And I know, looking at the technical amendments, some of them do seem somewhat bizarre. That one of the difficulties was in the naming of the Act of 2015 and the confusion, I think we can say, between the two different acts, the Gender Recognition Act of 2015 and the Children and Family Relationships Act of 2015. And I think one of the amendments here in Section 2 of the bill would change the definition of Act of 2015. So it does seem that this should have been done sooner. I suppose the most pressing issue is once we pass this, and I think we'll pass this as swiftly as we can, at what point then will the commencement of the 2015 Act provisions come into effect? And I know there was an amendment passed in the Dáil, as you've said, which provides a sort of almost a backstop, if we can use that term, that the 6th October 2019 will be the date on which the provisions will be commenced, if they haven't been commenced before that date. I think you said in your speech the Minister for Health hopes to commence before the summer recess. So I don't know if you can be more specific about a date, whether we can see in place, for example, by the end of May. Certainly I think this House will facilitate in any way we can the speedy passage of this necessary legislation. So I suppose, I would also like to take the opportunity, Minister, to thank you again for dealing with another pressing legacy issue, which was the legislation necessary to put into effect a remedy for people like David Paris, who had been so affected by the difficulties and the European Court of Justice ruling against them in terms of pension rights for gay couples. So I thank you for your passage of that legislation, which, as you know, I had brought in as a private member's bill here initially. I would also say that I think Senator Norris has raised some very significant issues, and I suppose he's relating really to the substantive provisions in the 2015 Act, in the Children and Family Relationships Act. And I know previously, as a member of the Justice Committee, where we had hearings into some of the issues around donor-assisted births, around surrogacy, we saw and we heard at first hand from so many stakeholders and NGOs and others just how complex these issues are to legislate for, how much medical and technological developments have moved on, and how we need to address those in our legislation, and the huge gaps that remain, particularly around surrogacy and births through surrogacy. And again, all of us are aware of that this is going on, but it's unregulated. And currently, as I understand it, Department of Foreign Affairs are dealing. Thanks, Chair. I'll come to a conclusion now. Department of Foreign Affairs are dealing effectively in an ad hoc manner, where children are born abroad through surrogacy, and require Irish passports, require recognition in law. We don't have that. So I think Senator Norris has raised some very complex issues which do urgently require attention from us as legislators, and I would ask you, Minister, when it's proposed to deal with those. I'm conscious that those go way beyond the technical provisions in this bill. I would say, finally, there is other unfinished business in terms of recognition of families, and I really welcome what you said about the need to recognise diverse family forms, but we need to look at amending our own constitution, which still only recognises the family based on marriage, and which therefore leaves unrecognised a large number of family units in this country in 2019 that really do need to be and are deserving of recognition and need to be recognised in our law. So with those few words, I look forward to further debate at committee and report stage on this important bill, and I do very much welcome its introduction.
Thank you very much, Senator.